Have you ever heard of the Buddhist tradition of putting salt in your shoes? Do you know exactly what the purpose of this ancient practice, rooted in the wisdom of Buddhists and Oriental medicine, is for? Salt is known for its countless uses, not limited to cooking. You've probably tried several thanks to suggestions from elders in the kitchen. Salt is a powerful ally, and according to recent research, it's not the main culprit in raising blood pressure. Its benefits extend beyond the kitchen. It's also a precious ingredient in household cleaning, aiding in hygiene and purification. Furthermore, in the form of a saline solution, it's an effective disinfectant for wounds and skin abrasions, not to mention its uses as an exfoliating scrub, anti-dandruff remedy, and bath salt. However, few people know that for Buddhists, putting salt in their shoes holds significant meaning on both a spiritual and medical level. We'll explore this in the Zen story you'll hear shortly, where you'll discover 5 reasons why you should also try this practice. So, stick around until the end, because what we'll reveal in the final minutes of the video will deeply impress you, leaving you speechless. But before we continue, if you're not already subscribed to our channel, subscribe and enable notifications to stay updated on our new content. In the heart of a valley, enveloped by the mystical aura of the Japanese mountains, stood an ancient Buddhist monastery, guardian of age-old wisdom and a refuge for those seeking inner peace. In this place, time seemed to have halted. Here lived the elderly and venerable monk Makoto, whose wisdom and profound understanding of Buddhism and Oriental medicine shone like a candle's light in the darkness of night. One morning, as the golden rays of the sun filtered through the tree branches, Makoto gathered his disciples in the monastery cloister for one of his customary lessons. With a serene expression, he invited them to sit in a circle around him and began to speak with a warm and reassuring voice. "Every step we take on the path of life is a sacred journey," the monk began. "A path that leads us to self-knowledge and understanding of the universe that surrounds us. Just as when facing a long and tiring journey, it's necessary to prepare adequately, so too in our earthly existence, we must be ready to face the challenges that await us." The disciples listened, captivated by their master's words. When Makoto mentioned the ancient custom of putting salt in shoes, their minds opened to the wonder of a tradition as ancient as it was mysterious. "This practice," Makoto continued, "has roots that go back to the distant past when our ancestors traversed wild and impassable lands. In those ancient times, salt wasn't just a seasoning to enrich foods, but a precious commodity, a symbol of purity and protection." The senior monk paused, allowing his words to settle like delicate sand in the minds of his disciples, then continued. "I will now explain to you the 5 main reasons why the practice of putting salt in your shoes is so significant and important for our spiritual path and for our health in general." First, Makoto said, "Salt has the power to absorb moisture, much like Buddha absorbs the suffering of the world. When we put salt in our shoes, it helps us keep our steps light and agile in Buddhist practice. Humidity is often associated with the weight of worries and suffering that we carry with us along the path of life. Just as the weight of water filling our shoes in the rain slows and weighs down our pace, so too can the worries and tensions of the mind hinder our progress toward inner peace and enlightenment. Putting salt in your shoes symbolizes the desire to free yourself from this burden, to let go of worries, and to maintain a lightness of spirit despite the challenges encountered along the way. Salt acts as an absorbent of these worries, allowing our steps to remain light and agile as we proceed in our search for inner peace and wisdom. To illustrate the meaning of this aspect, Makoto told them the story of an old fisherman who, during a storm, saved his boat from breaking thanks to a bag of salt that he had thrown on the deck to absorb the water. "The second reason to put salt in your shoes," Makoto continued, "is that salt has purifying properties. By assimilating impurities, salt purifies our path, freeing it from harmful influences and spiritual obstacles. Putting salt in our shoes, therefore, is a way to protect our mind and spirit from the deceptions and temptations of the outside world." To better explain this idea, the monk shared with his disciples the story of a traveler who, during his journey, encountered a river infested with evil spirits. Thanks to the salt in his shoes, he was able to cross the river unscathed, protecting his mind and spirit from negative influences. The third reason, Makoto continued, is that salt helps us maintain balance. Just as the mountains that surround us are symbols of stability and strength, putting salt in our shoes also helps us to root ourselves in the earth and to remain steadfast in the face of life's storms. The mountains surrounding the monastery represent the image of stability and strength, said the monk, just as these towering rock formations remain steadfast even in the face of the most violent storms. So we too must learn to maintain our inner stability as we face life's challenges. Putting salt in your shoes symbolizes this balance. The salt, in fact, acts as an anchor for our steps, stabilizing them and preventing unwanted falls along our path. When we walk with salted shoes, we feel more solid and rooted to the ground, as if we have a deep connection with the earth itself. This balance not only affects the body, but also the mind and spirit. Therefore, following this practice is an invitation to find the right balance between the different dimensions of our existence, between work and rest, between action and contemplation, between joy and sadness, between good and evil. When we manage to maintain this balance, we can face life's challenges with serenity and determination, without being shaken by the ups and downs we encounter along the spiritual path. To make the concept clearer, Makoto told them the story of a young monk who, during a meditation on the banks of a stormy mountain stream, had found perfect balance thanks to the salt he brought with him. As the disciples became more and more engaged with their spiritual guide stories, Makoto continued with the fourth reason. Salt also has healing properties. In Oriental medicine, in fact, salt is considered a natural remedy to relieve pain and tension. Putting salt in your shoes can soothe not only physical discomforts, but also the mental ones that we encounter along our spiritual path. To demonstrate this idea, the monk shared with his disciples the story of a farmer who, suffering from an open wound on his foot, had found relief by immersing his foot in a saline solution. Continuing with the fifth reason, Makoto talked about how putting salt in your shoes was a gesture of gratitude. Salt is a precious gift from the earth, and using it mindfully reminds us to be grateful for all that life offers us, both the joys and the challenges, said the master. The disciples listened to Makoto's words with deep reverence, grasping the wisdom behind that seemingly simple gesture. But the monk wasn't finished yet. Looking his disciples straight in the eyes, he added, "My dears, there is a reason linked to this practice that I wanted to leave until last due to its importance. Putting salt in your shoes is a rite of passage that connects us to past generations and all the people who have walked this earth before us. Every grain of salt represents their stories, their challenges, and their victories. When we put it in our shoes, we join an eternal bond of wisdom and resilience that crosses time and space, transmitting their spirit and strength in our footsteps." Faced with this revelation, the disciples were speechless, contemplating the depth of this apparently simple gesture. They understood that for Makoto, salt in shoes were not just an ancient practice or a symbol of protection and purification, but a connection to humanity itself and all the lives that have passed before them.